Hi everyone, my name is Andrea Mora and today I'll be presenting to you my final presentation. Now my research essay topic was about women's treatment in healthcare, specifically, how they're treated and then what the causes of that treatment could lead to. My thesis statement was how women are taken care of when being patient is a big problem and sadly it's worsening. For pregnant women, there are many aspects on how it is increasing as a problem. For example, the options for women when they are, when they become pregnant or find out they're pregnant, the way the maternal mortality rate is increasing, and lastly, how postpartum care isn't a priority, especially here in the United States. Maternal mortality. And unfortunately, in the United States, over 80% of pregnancy-related deaths are determined to be preventable. If you look at the blue picture on the side, it says maternal mortality in the United States far outstrips than other industrialized nations. If you look at the one on France versus ours, we are over double the amount of France maternal mortality rates, and I see that as a huge problem considering we're both industrialized nations. And if you look compared to the lowest one, New Zealand, we are like almost 20 times over, which is very sad and crazy. The primary complications of maternal deaths are severe bleeding, infections, high blood pressure, complications from delivery, and unsafe abortions. If you also look on the other graph, systemic racism is also a big reason because of maternal mortality. Black women face 3 times the maternal risk as white women. If you see black mothers is 55, white women, their white mothers are 19, and Hispanic mothers is 18. And Hispanic mothers compared to, black mothers and white mothers might not seem that bad, but according to the Century Foundation, it has doubled within the most recent years, which is crazy to believe because it's a big problem. It's something that's growing and rising within these past years, which is very sad. Postpartum care is a big reason also for women's treatment because, once they have the child and the care for the mother and the child after they give birth really isn't a big priority here in the United States. If you have like public aid, the most they will give you is around like 2 weeks, which is something I learned also from the Century Foundation. In the United States, postpartum care is covered for, up to 2 weeks after giving birth. And if you look on the graph, the percentage of pregnancy-related deaths by timing of deaths, there's a lot of, timing and percentages. Like during pregnancy, it's 21.58%, which isn't super big compared to the other ones, but it's still pretty big. Meanwhile, the day of delivery, it's 13.19%, and up to like 1 to 6 days, almost a week, days of postpartum is 11.99. Your insurance is still covering that. But the part where it gets like a week to, about a month, 7 to 42 days postpartum, it's 23%, which is, a big problem, looking at them. And then it's sad because, like up to a week, you're not covered by your insurance anymore. If stuff happens, it's going to be stressful, to find all that money, which also goes on top of the stress, on top of, complications you might have. And if you look to like a month to a year, 43 to 365 days postpartum, it's 30%. By then, you probably aren't really thinking of complications, having the child is out, and that's like, all right, my kid is, hopefully healthy. The mothers really aren't thinking of themselves because, they don't have that much care, after. Meanwhile, the Netherlands and Belgium, postpartum care begins when the mother is 34 weeks, the mother, has the child and then they're cared for, a certain amount of time. Like in Mexico and China, they have a 30-day period to rest with their families. And I know it doesn't, it's just 30 days. That 30 days can help a lot because it's getting the stress off the mother. Because there's a lot of things that a mother goes through, especially after having a child, all the, stress on the body, trying to remain healthy, trying to remain strong for, your family. It's a very big thing and a big issue I feel like not a lot of people talk about since postpartum care isn't a priority. And there's a lot of stressors when it comes to becoming a mother. Not even talking about whether 90% of American children are unexpected. They're surprises, and it's a really big stressor. And not only on top of that, getting the right insurances, regarding like your care. And in the United States, women are mainly prioritizing their current care, doctor appointments, wellness checks, whether their pregnancy plans. But here in the US, postpartum care really is not a priority. Now going on to my school-wise, in this semester, how have I improved as a writer? I feel like as a writer, I've honestly learned so much this semester. In the beginning of the semester, I hope to accomplish a lot of new writing skills, especially, proper grammar, since, it's been a while since I took an English class since high school. How to build up my own outlines, since I believe that's something very important when it comes to writing, your structure and organization is very important. Researching. I feel like researching isn't really a big priority in some classes. Like in English, we mainly did like informative writing, narrative writing. I'm sorry, not informative. Like just, informed about something based, and narrative as in like, your own story. Researching is like completely different because there's so many things regarding that, which is how I developed more as a writer, because I've learned a lot in this class regarding writing. I've learned like how perspectives are very important when it comes to writing regarding the writer and the reader. I learned how to build I learned how to build my own outlines more. And when it came to doing research, my sources were very, very important. And I learned that organization is vital, which is how it helped, build my outlines. Especially like researching, like I said, sources are very important. Like you never know where to look, when to look, and it's hard sometimes to tell which sources are very reliable, which is something I'm so glad I learned in this class. And I also learned like what resources Harper College had, to offer as me as a student. My greatest strengths, like I said, I've learned a lot in this class. I feel like my greatest strength in this class is definitely researching for my writing assignments. I learned like, which sources are more reliable, like public scholarly articles, websites that have like are from schools and like have been there for more than a couple years, like 10 years. So they have like basis, they have like ground knowledge, and researching has been done. You gotta do research about the researches and sources you use. I learned that, which is now I think would become one of my greatest strengths. Ooh, I honestly learned a lot during the writer groups. I really did enjoy them, seeing how people react to like, my opinions and current writing in that time was very important to me. It's different than, discussion boards, like leaving comments on people's writing, because like you might read it and read it a certain way, which is how I learned perspectives is very important, because you might read something one way and someone might see it a completely different way, especially like poetry and certain narrative writing. People like to leave open endings, and you might think, oh, maybe they meant this, but then you communicate with someone about it and you're like, oh, I didn't see it like you saw it. Perspective, I feel like, was very important in our writers group, because I learned like I as a writer might write and I know the whole story, I know the whole like history of my story because I created it. And seeing how a reader might react with something different and something I did not really think about, I just thought, oh, the reader will understand this. But as I learned from a writer group, they might not always, because it's confusing. I know everything, the reader doesn't. The reader might go in and be like, wait a minute, when did we talk about this? And I might have not talked about it, since I didn't, I already knew about it. What will I continue to work on, after the semester ends? I've truly enjoyed this semester, this class. I feel like I will continue to work on, especially my writing skills, trying to tone and, practice them, of course, because I don't want these like skills to go to waste and forget about them eventually. I want to definitely try more journaling, learn like how to take better notes and outlining for my future classes, and learning from mini lessons, and just trying to keep writing, trying to keep practicing and keep my memories and skills to apply to many things of this world. These are my works cited from my research article and some of the pictures I used in the presentation. Thank you so much.